All right, so we are going to do our workshop for you today, and this is on how to run a story time. Samantha will start us off.
Hello. So we're going to go over book selection because once you have a story time, sometimes you might be overwhelmed at all the different types of books that you want to use or that are out there on your bookshelf to use for your children. So let's go over some of them. We're going to start off with books for class versus books on one-on-one. So typically books for class, you would use books that have larger pictures. For example, this book titled How Did Dinosaurs Stay Friends, written by Jane Yolen, I'm sorry. So if you look at this, look at these pages, it typically only has like maybe one or two sentences, not too much, but it's really the images that captures the listener's attentions. And in this book, it involves dinosaurs. And the really cool part about this book as well is this author likes to involve the name of the dinosaurs hidden within the image. So then you can kind of make a game of that and ask the children, oh, do you guys see the name of the dinosaur within the image? So this is a really great book that would be wonderful for a class. Now, you typically those books you don't want to make them too wordy. Like I mentioned, one or two sentences for a book. Like maybe for like a one-on-one, you might want to use something smaller. That way you guys can sit side by side. It'll be a lot easier to hold the book, to guide the child on the words that are being read. Like this one titled The Thank You Book. I had better get thinking. So then when you read with them, they can follow it and read with you. You can also use interactive books. So interactive books will involve repeating phrases that kids can say. So this is a wonderful one right here. This book is titled Monkey and Me by Emily Gravitt. And throughout this book, she is frequently repeating the phrase monkey and me, monkey and me. And she'll throw in a couple of other little friends in here like elephants. So there are other books like that that make repeating phrases that the kids can follow. You can also use books that involve movement and prompts for our listeners to follow. So for that, you can read Can You Make a Scary Face? So this is a great book because it involves our character to really talk to our children and have them do some fun movements and activities. Like the ladybug says, "No, I changed my mind. Stand up." And then follows with, "Are you ready? Let's pretend." And we are going to pretend that we have a bug on our nose and we have to wiggle it off. And this is where I might tell the children, "There's a bug on your nose. Let's wiggle it off, wiggle it off. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, we gotta get that bug off of our nose." So there are many books like this where it has a little story, but it's mostly for our listeners to follow and try to follow the directions of our lead character. Now you have books with a bouncing rhythm, books like Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, or books like Brown Bear, What Do You See? So throughout this book, you have them possibly introducing some new characters, but when you read it, it kind of goes to like your own melody, your own rhythm, and the kids are able to follow along with that rhythm and join in with the book. So for example, yellow duck, what do you see? I see a blue horse looking at me. And once they get used to it, they'll be able to follow along with the next couple of pages. Now, reading these books is also a great opportunity to ask questions as you're reading. So I might ask something like, "Hey, hi, can you guys tell me what color is this bird right here?" And give it a couple of seconds, and then you hear, it's red, Miss Sam. You're right. It is a red bird. Let's read this page. So now I'm going to just talk about developmentally appropriate books. So babies love high contrast books and books with pictures of other babies, especially their faces. I brought an example. Now this one doesn't show any babies' faces, but it's the contrast that we want to talk about. So if you look at it, the images are very big, the ink is very bold, and it's a board book. So this allows the baby to really grab on it, not tear anything. And the colors pop, the colors are bold. So not only are you seeing some contrasting, different bold colors, but you're also introducing numbers. And then if you want, you can have them try to follow along with a finger on the number as you're reading. Toddlers enjoy books that involve 1 to 2 sentences. The stories are not too complex. They're kind of easy, kind of simple, like our dinosaur book. There's nothing too, not too much of a narrative. It's more just kind of giving just like a general, simple language for them. Now, preschoolers will definitely enjoy books that are a little bit more sophisticated, maybe a little bit more of a problem solving, involves vocabulary words, sight words, might have some comedy humor elements to it. It might also have involve issues that they might be dealing with on a daily basis, whether at home or at school. These books can involve how to share, what to do if you if you're being bullied, how to help a friend if they're going through some problems, like if your friend is sad. And it'll have like it'll be a little bit more than 1 to 2 sentences, possibly like 5 shortened sentences, but it'll give a clear message out. Now, you might want to use books that involve clear narrative. So I bought this book called Ava and the Rainbow Who Stayed, written by Jed Adamson. So I really, really enjoy this book because it is about a girl who befriends a rainbow, about the rainbow being happy to see the girl, about people in general just kind of not really appreciating the rainbow, and the little girl feeling sad about it. The rainbow ends up disappearing. So then it makes her kind of feel bad, and she knows that it's gone for a moment, but it won't be gone forever, because the next time it rains, the rainbow comes back. So books like this, it gives a very clear beginning, middle, and end. You know who the main character is. You have a wonderful setting. You do have a problem, an issue that occurs within the book. You also have a climax and a nice ending. Now we're going to go into books regarding everyday diversity. So the majority of the picture books that we might notice often show animals or white middle class or typically able people. But we want to introduce books that children can see themselves in, characters that they can really, that they can see themselves. So I chose Why Am I Me, written by Paige Britt. So this is a wonderful example because you show different people from different backgrounds, different communities, just walking and within a town, taking the bus or the train, playing in the park, so they can really see themselves within their characters. And everyday activities like, hey, I play the piano just like that character, or I love going into the park listening to a band. Now, there are so many different genres. You can do a fiction book, or you can do a nonfiction book, or even poetry or board books, depending upon your audience. So what I like to do occasionally is I would like to introduce occasionally a nonfiction book. So this is a really cool book titled Flying Frogs and Walking Fish. Now, just depending upon your audience, you might want to skip some pages, but if your class have a great attention span, then you might be able to read the whole thing. And then we'll go over all the different types of animals that we see, and we'll just kind of discuss, wow, what's your favorite one? Which one is so scary? Can you believe it? Are we going to see this little guy in our backyard? Or are we going to see this type of elephant swimming in the park, which is also really interesting because a lot of the children, it might be the first time hearing that elephants swim and they breathe through the trunk while they're swimming, which is so fascinating. So just depending upon your audience, you can use either nonfiction, but fiction, or even just poetry. Finally, you want to use books that you love. So my all-time favorite book that I remember being read to in kindergarten is Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters, an African Tale. So this is an African version of Cinderella. I remember my teacher reading this book to me. I remember falling in love with the illustrations. Even today, I will occasionally read this to myself or read it to my children because absolutely love this book. And when you read a book that you genuinely, honestly love, it will reflect back to the children. They'll hear your excitement. They'll hear your fear of like, what's going on? What's about to happen to our main character? Where is she going to go? Another plus that I really did love about this book is there's a character who reminded me so much of my Nana that when I read it, I was like, oh my goodness, my Nana is in this book. But, you know, it can be any book that you generally are passionate about, the children will catch on to. And now I will give it back to Shayna.
Thank you, Samantha, for showing us all those great books. I'm now going to cover how to read a book. So we've picked our books thanks to Samantha, and we're going to learn how to actually read it during story time. So I recommend to read the book ahead of time. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, you want to make sure that the content is something that you want to tell the children. You don't want to have a surprise in there that you're like, I don't think I wanted the kids to hear that wording or see that picture. You also want to get a feel for the rhythm of the book. I have found if I haven't read a book before and I pick it up and start to read it, I might like trip over the words. So even just one read through will help you understand like the rhythm and how you're supposed to read it. Next, I recommend reading the title and the author. The title, easy, gets you started, and it's probably going, for children's books, that line is probably going to be repeated in the book anyway. An author, I like to say, because it allows kids to understand authorship, that somebody wrote this, a real human person wrote this book, and we can now read it ourselves. And also, if you liked them and you like this book, you can find other books that were written by the same author, and that'll help them when they come to the library to know what section to look in. Make sure the kids can see. This can be tricky when you have a big group, and there's a great video, especially on how to help kids to see, if you follow the link below. It says jberry.com. Onto They're a website that has a blog of different library tips, and then also videos of songs you can sing. So on that specific article, they explain how to read a book and show all these tips. But this is my short version of it. So here I have my book, and I want to make sure everybody can see. If kids are sitting wide, you will have to you'll have to move the picture book and make it go back and forth in order to make sure they all see it. And that can sometimes be distracting. If you're sitting over here and the book is pointed that way, well, you're going to be frustrated, and you're also going to start losing your attention span, waiting for it to come around again. So if you can sit your kids so that they're at a 90-degree angle. It'll actually make it so that when you open the book, everybody will be able to see at the same time, and you won't have to keep moving it back and forth. Again, there's more tips on how to read it, hold a book on that article, such as where do you place your hands? How high do you hold it? Where do you stay in relation to the book? So I recommend checking it out for more tips. And I recommend slowing your pace down. Sometimes when we're reading, we speed up. Maybe you're nervous about reading, maybe you're worried about getting to the next thing, but you want to make sure the kids can hear what you're saying and give the kids time to understand and process that information. Make it interactive. Samantha covered more on that, on how to be interactive when you read a book. Make connections. So when you're reading a book, you want to further the understanding. And you can say, for instance, you could say, what do you see in this picture? What's happening in the picture? We see the kids are jumping and they're messy. Why do you think they're messy? Look at this picture together. Oh, they're messy because they were playing outside. So linking things for them and describing what you see can help for a richer reading experience and pointing out all those illustrations. You don't need to spell out the morals all the time in the book, but you can lead to questions such as, why are all of these girls beautiful? Just like a leading question so that they can bring it along with their own thoughts. Use your voice. Inflections for words like up and down will make it far more interesting for the kids. And giving the characters different voices. This is my Billy Goat's gruff voice, and this is my tiny Billy Goat gruff. So, like, you can go along with the story, and it will be funnier sometimes, or help them follow along. And back to Samantha.
Okay, so we're going to go over the structure of story time. So with your story time, you want a distinct beginning and ending song. So dependable routines make kids comfortable and not frustrated. So you can either start with, well, what I like to start with is a song called Hi, Hello, where we introduce ourselves, and I make it also a little point. It's also a very kind thing to do, to say hi to each other when we see each other again. It goes like, hi, hello, and how are you? How are you? How are you? Hi, hello, and how are you? How are you today? Honestly, I couldn't stop singing that song once I got started. I felt like I had to finish it. So you can start off with a song like that. You could start off with a sign language song called Hello Friends, where you introduce the children to some general, simple sign language signs, or you can either start off with an ABC song. You can do just whatever you feel your group will really grab onto. In songs, let the children know that story time is over, so they're not caught off guard. So once you have an ending song that works well with your group, it would just kind of be nice to kind of stick with it. So you can do a simple one like story time is over, clap your hands. And it'll be like a clapping ending song, or you can do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or even use like a nursery rhyme, like the cow jumping over the moon. Just something that gives the children a general acknowledgement that story time is about to end. So like I had mentioned, so some examples of hello and goodbye songs, like I had mentioned, is hi, hello, how are you? You can also do a nice hello song that I would like to do with a new group is Heckity Peckity Bumblebee, where I introduce my name, like Heckity Peckity Bumblebee, won't you say name for me? And I'll say, my name is Miss Sam. And then we'll just practice different pitches. We'll whisper it, we'll yell it while we're still clapping, putting our hands in our lap. And then with that song, depending upon your group, you could also have every kid in your group introduce themselves. And you could also do hello and goodbye using American Sign Language, where I would like to introduce the signs, how to say hello, put my hand on top of my head and push off, hello. My two fingers are going to be friends. This is our sign, and they're going to hug. Hello, friends. Point to my invisible watch where it's time. Point to my chin to say back to hello. So then we'll do a song for that. And then at the end, we'll say goodbye, where I introduce a sign for goodbye. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. So those are some general examples of some hello and goodbye songs, but you could also go to the link that Shana had mentioned before, the Jayberry link on how to start your story time, and they have some excellent examples on other hello and goodbye songs. So variety. So depending upon your group, your children can be, maybe they can just be, just sitting down. They can sit the whole story time, don't have to move too much, where you can just maybe have some simple finger play rhymes, like maybe two little blackbirds sitting on a hill. But some other children, we might need to get some of our wiggles out. So it is nice to have a general variety where while they're sitting down listening to a book, or you can involve like the felt board and do a story from there, and also involve some rhymes. Then you can have the children stand up and do the banana dance, or do head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And then after another book following that gross movement rhyme, you might want to do maybe a simple song like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, where they're just moving their fingers mimicking the stars. But just that variety helps make it a nice and smooth story time. So repeating songs and rhymes so kids can learn, because kids get excited singing along to songs they already know. So occasionally, if you want to, you can introduce a new song and then follow that up with a song that the children are generally knowledgeable on, like maybe The Wheels on the Bus, or the Itsy Bitsy Spider. So making a lesson plan. So not everyone needs one, but it does definitely help just to kind of keep you like focused and on task on how you wanted your flow to go. So I would, so to create a lesson, when I create a lesson plan, I started off with my beginning song, my opener, my hello song. I would possibly follow it up with a movement rhyme and a book, and just kind of just be knowing like what class I'm going to see, kind of create a general flow on what would benefit that class. Now, you might not always follow that lesson plan, like with each rhyme and book in that order, because sometimes with children we have to kind of throw an extra rhyme in the mix, or maybe a certain book won't work, so then we might have to change it up. But it just kind of gives you like a nice flow to follow. And of course, like I was mentioning, sometimes the class books don't work, or maybe rhymes don't work. You have to be flexible. Sometimes you might have to improvise depending upon your child's mood. So if we notice like maybe a book is a little bit too long for our little ones, I might maybe cut 2 pages at the end and just say, you know what, come on, let's stand up. Let's get some of our wiggles out, because I know I have wiggles. Let's jump around like little bunnies. Will we be exhausted afterwards? Yes, but we'll be happy and ready for the next book or felt rhyme? Definitely. Now I'm going to show you a brief example. So this is an example of an outline that would be used for a pre-K. Now, as you can see, we have our intro. I might use a puppet just to go over some feelings, a movement, maybe some felt board, a parachute where we'll all hang on to it. And we might be able to do some nursery rhymes. And then at the end, I would close it with Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Now, finally, keeping kids engaged. Have a great time with it. Pick rhymes and books that you will honestly enjoy reading over and over again, because sometimes you might have to do, if a song is really popular, a book is really popular, you might end up doing it like once or twice within a story time, or within a week. If you're excited about it, the kids will be excited about it. Your enthusiasm is going to be so contagious. They're going to get so excited because then they see how happy you are, to show them that they can't help by getting happy themselves. Before reading a book, tell the kids you'll ask them questions so they pay attention. So for example, if I were to read a nonfiction book, I'll just give them like a little heads up. We're going to read this fabulous book about these wonderful animals and the wonderful things that they do, but we must pay attention, because I'm going to ask you some questions later. And so I'll notice their attention is a lot more focused on the book, because I'll ask them, okay, so can anybody tell me what animal uses their trunk when they swim underwater? You'll get all the little hands up, because they'll be also enthusiastic to share because they were paying attention. Or you can, it can be like an opinionated question, like, can you tell me what was your favorite part of the book? What was your favorite character? Can you tell me what was that character feeling? And then they might also raise their hands and give you their input as well. And include songs the kids will enjoy. So I had a class that was crazy about dinosaurs. So I introduced a dinosaur song, and I ended up having to use that same song for 2 months, because they really, really enjoy pretending that they're dinosaurs and stomping around. We all know are the children that we see after a while. So we know the songs that would always be a hit with them. So even if you have to do it maybe 2 or 3 months in a row, involve it within your story time because you know that's going to be a hit with your children. And now I'm going to pass it back to Shayna.
Thank you, Samantha. All right, this is one of my favorite topics. I'm so excited to tell you about it. Storytelling. Storytelling is different than reading a book because with reading, you have the book in front of you, you're reading off the page, and you are not making up any new information. It says it up there. Maybe you can delineate a little bit when you're trying to get the kids to understand a little more what's going on the page. What are the kids doing here? Oh, they're digging into the garden. A little bit of deviation, but for the most part, you're reading off of the page. When you're storytelling, there is no book. It is you performing to the kids. And there's a lot of reasons why storytelling can be beneficial. When you have these bookless stories, kids don't get frustrated when they can't see the page. They're not trying to spend all of their attention looking at the picture because there is none. So they'll just be looking at you. And or whatever props you're holding. And I find that because of this, you can tell longer, more wordy stories, even for little kids, and they will still pay attention. So books like, or stories like folk tales tend to be pretty wordy, but they can work when you're just using them as storytelling. And folk tales are great because you get to give the kids cultural appreciation. You can tell them stories from Ireland and Africa and China, and they can learn about different people and places. Storytelling can it can be longer. You can use that. You can use longer. You can have longer stories. It requires more confidence, practice, and performance. So you do have to put a little bit more work into it. When you're reading a book, you can just read it through once and then read it to the kids. There's not a lot of prep that goes to it. But when you are doing storytelling, you do have to practice and think about what your talking points will be through the story. When you're doing storytelling, even though you don't have a book, you can use props like a felt board that then has the pieces on it for the story you're telling. Or you can do paper folding, which means when you have a paper and as you fold it, it tells parts of the story until at the end it turns into a picture that goes along with the story. Um, you can even wear costumes that can help enhance the story. When I tell Raven a trickster tale, I like to have a series of boxes. And so each box has a smaller box inside of it. And as part of the story, there's a glowing ball in the middle. And I take off a lid and I can pick up the box and say, oh, what do you think's in here? And take off the lid. And then there's another box and take off the lid. And so it engages them and seeing that. Storytelling can be helpful. It can be helpful for you to do storytelling by reading a little bit more into it. I took a course in grad school and really learned a lot and practiced a lot to be able to do it. But it really helped me to read this beautiful book called Crash Course in Storytelling by Kendall Haven. You can see I've read it a couple of times. And it breaks down all the different ways to help you be able to learn it for yourself. One of my favorite things that is said in this book is a lot of times we feel that we're not able to do storytelling because professionals do that. But think of it this way. When do you cook at home? Yeah, you cook at home. Are you professional at it? No. So just because you didn't go to school to it and you are not a chef does not mean you can do cooking. You can't do cooking at home too. And it's the same way with storytelling. You can do your own version and don't compare yourself to somebody who does it as their profession. So I really recommend trying to give it a go. It's a little scary, but you know what? Kids are great. And if you need it, I find props help to be able to start with that. And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for watching. We are going to have another presentation next month to be able to talk to.